Greetings. We are still talking about the rotten Zionists and their lies about how the Lord blessed Isaac and ignored Ishmael completely. And in his prophecy to Abraham, he said that your offspring will be like the dust of the earth and the bodies of the bodies of the heaven. So let's see how they were always the fewest nation, the fewest in number, and the least, never the greatest. First Chronicles, the book of First Chronicles, chapter 16, verse 19. It says, when they were but few in number, few indeed, and strangers in it. All right, so few in number, few indeed. Always, we are talking that the Israelis were always few and do not meet and match the promise, the promise, the prophecy and the promise. Let's go to Psalms, the book of Psalms, Psalm 105, verse 12. When they were but few in number, again, few in number, few indeed, and strangers in it. Isaiah 1:9. Unless the Lord Almighty had left us some survivors. Now, this is after the Babylonian slavery. So let's stop here because there is something missing we did not mention. After the Palestinians have been killing thousands of them, when they go against the Palestinians in war, they want to kill the Palestinians, and many of the Palestinians die as well. But also thousands of the Israelis. They've been chopped. Now come the Assyrians, the north kingdom of what is today's Iraq. The northern kingdom, Assyria, they came with their army against the 10 tribes in the north of Palestine from the Israelis, called Samaria. They killed half of them and took the rest slaves to Assyria. Next, after a few years, came the Babylonians with Nebuchadnezzar, now to the southern kingdom of the Israelis called Judea, killing half of those and taking the rest as slaves to Babylon. In Babylon and Assyria, which is today's Iraq, many of them died as well. Then Persia took over, and the Israelis continued to be slaves, now under Persia, and many died during the slavery. And then they came back. Now we are at the stage where they came back, and we are talking Isaiah, after the slavery, Babylonian, Persian slavery. What Isaiah chapter 1 verse 9 says, unless the Lord Almighty had left us some survivors. The word some survivors, anybody can understand. No need to elaborate. Some survivors, not many survivors. Very few survivors. Always few in number. One example after the other. Let's go to the next. What does it say also? Survivors. We would have become like Sodom, and we would have been like Gomorrah. What happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? Perhaps you know, but the majority of us know this story. Sodom and Gomorrah were annihilated, extinguished from history, no trace, finished. So Isaiah here 1:9 says, if the Lord Almighty did not leave some survival, very few, we would have been like Sodom and Gomorrah, completely wiped out. Completely wiped out. Can you imagine how many left? Can you Imagine, fantasize, use your brain. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 6, verse 13. It says, and though a tenth, 1/10, tenth, remains in the land, it will again be laid waste. But as the terebinth and oak leaf stumps, when they are cut down, even the tenth will be cut down, so the holy seed will be the stump in the land. Let's go to Isaiah 10:22. Though your people be like the sand of the sea, by the sea, the sand by the sea, Israel only a remnant will return from slavery, from Babylon. Only a remnant, a remnant, left over, like when the lion kills an animal in the forest and he eats, and a remnant of the animal is left. Only a remnant will return. Destruction has been decreed. Decreed. It is done. The Lord's destruction will take place. Overwhelming and righteous. Righteous, because killing this filthy nation who used to worship idols. We'll talk about the idols in different videos. The Lord gave him Palestine to live in the land of milk and honey. Instead of saying, praise you, O Lord, thank you, O Lord, they worship all kind of idols, like Ishtoreth or Baal of the Canaanites. And all kind, even the sun and the moon. Like the stupid today, they say that the Muslims worship the moon. They have no idea how the moon is looked at in the eyes of the Muslims. Or at verse 23, it says, the Lord Almighty will carry out the destruction decreed upon the whole land. It's decreed. Passed. Judgment is passed. It should be fulfilled. Isaiah 37 verse 4 says, therefore pray for the remnant that still survives. Make a prayer for those few left. Remnant. Isaiah 41. Okay, I messed up. 14. All right. In 13, the Lord said, I will help you. 14, he says, do not be afraid. You worm, Jacob, worm, so small, are left from the descendants of Jacob. Worm, insects. You worm, Jacob, little Israel, do not fear. They speak about the anti-Semitic. They should read the Old Testament, the Jewish book, Tanakh, Torah, Ketuvim, Nabuim. God must be the worst anti-Semitic. Even the Lord hates them so much. So far we have seen many examples how few in number they are. Always. Not to mention the lie about Hitler killing 6 million. Not to mention how the black fever killed so many of them in France. Not to mention all those who died when they were all over the world from one corner to the other. Israelis do not fulfill the prophecy and the promise. The Lord said, your offspring will be like the dust of the earth or the bodies in the heaven. I hope I made up my point. No need to bring more examples. I swear, there are so many more examples you cannot imagine. Especially when every time the Lord destroyed them, personally destroyed them, for defiance during the time of Moses. They go against the Lord destroys so many thousands of them, smite them down in a big slaughter. So many times the Lord threatened to extinguish them, completely wipe them out. They almost were wiped out also at the hand of the Persians, but because of a trick of a harlot named Esther and her uncle Mordecai, they managed to trick the king, managed for to, to kill the queen and the prime minister and return to Palestine with the help of Cyrus. So basically, always few in number, the prophecy says, and the promise, like the sand, the dust of the earth, or the bodies in the heaven. Israelis are not the promise. Take care.